All right, so we had the breaking news came out about, 15, 20 minutes ago now that the Red Wings have moved on from Derek Lalonde as the head coach, and they have hired, not only have they hired a new coach, but they gave him an extension. He's got a multi-year contract. Not an extension, but they gave him a multi-year contract. It's Todd McLellan. Todd McLellan, who had coached in the NHL with San Jose and the LA Kings and the Edmonton Oilers. 9 playoff appearances in his, I think, 16 years of coaching in the NHL as a head coach. Prior to his stint with San Jose, in his entry as being a head coach, prior to that, he was with the Red Wings. He was an assistant with Mike Babcock. He was in charge of the power play, and it was the best power play in the NHL at the time. Of course, the Red Wings had different players, Hall of Fame players in that team, and while they were playing perhaps in their prime. And that's not going to be the case here with Detroit unless they can develop some players to become Hall of Fame players, although they do have Patrick Kane, but he is definitely not in his prime. Wanted to ask the people what they thought of this. 248-539-9797 is the telephone number. The Red Wings are in the midst of having a horrendous season. They are second from the bottom in the basement here in the Eastern Conference, with just 30 points. They're 2 points above Buffalo. 2. They've lost, I think, 9 of their last 12 games. Their penalty killing has been horrific. They are not scoring goals. They have 88 goals scored in 34 games. And, I had that revelation on, I think it was on Monday's show. I was like, Monday or Tuesday's show. I said, they've actually played 34 games already? 34, nearing the halfway point of the season. Well, they made a decision to move on. They fired Derek Lalonde, replaced him with Todd McLellan. What did the people think? 248-539-9797. We'll start with Joe, who's in Howell. Joe, welcome to 97 on the ticket. Hey, Joe.
What's up, Gator? How you doing, man?
Doing all right, man.
Hey, I think it's a move that had to be done. Lalonde had clearly lost the team. The players weren't playing for him. But with that being said, I don't think Lalonde shoulders all the blame in this.
Oh, no, he definitely does not.
I honestly believe Yzerman still shoulders all the blame in this. I mean, for starters, Yzerman hired Lalonde, which, okay, first coaching hire, we'll give him a mulligan. But secondly, when you look at the style of play that Lalonde wanted to run, he was a defensive-minded, quality over quantity shots. And then the players that Yzerman brought in didn't fit in that system. It was kind of confusing. You bring in Tarasenko's and Kanes and DeBrincat who are not good defensive, in their own defensive zone. Our bottom 4 defensemen, I mean, let's be honest, they're just not good. Other than Edmondson and Seider, our defense is not good. So I do think that Yzerman still shoulders most of the blame, but firing Lalonde now, I think, is a step in the right direction, and it doesn't mean it can't be corrected in the future. But I just think Yzerman's got himself in a mess, and he's got to get himself out now. I mean, we're up against the cap. The players he's signed in free agency, they haven't been that great.
No.
Comfer, they have been, not very good.
Well, I think guys, Joe, you bring up some interesting points, and thanks for the call. I think guys like Kopp and Comfer, those guys filled that role that you were talking about maybe being defensive players, defensive first players, responsible players. And when they brought these guys in over the last several years, and they keep bringing players like that in, they realized that they still needed scoring. And that's why they went out and get Alex DeBrincat. That's why they took a chance on Patrick Kane. And that's why they take a chance on Vladimir Tarasenko. And those are 3 acquisitions. Well, I guess you could start with DeBrincat that hasn't worked out as well as you thought. DeBrincat goes through stretches where he looks amazing. And then he goes through stretches like, where's the scoring? He's only got 13 goals this year in 34 games, 25 points in 34 games. Patrick Kane last year was really good for the Red Wings. An incredible passer. Yes, he's a liability defensively, but setting him up on a power play, he's brilliant for a power play. And he had a pretty good season last year with the Red Wings, almost a point a game. This year, full training camp under his belt, totally healthy, but he's older. and he hasn't performed. 14 points in the 29 games and only 5 goals. But the one that's most disappointing is the third player you mentioned, and that's the free agent acquisition of Vladimir Tarasenko. In 33 games, he's got 12 points and only 4 goals. So you've got 3 guys that have been proven players in the NHL with DeBrincat, Kane, and Tarasenko. And between them, they have 22 goals. It's not good enough. So does a change in coaching, does that light a fire under the offense? Will that start to spark DeBrincat and Patrick Kane and Vladimir Tarasenko? Or are these just going to be 3 awful acquisitions that further put Steve Yzerman in a bad light? It might. I mean, Yzerman's going to be, to me, it starts with how you draft. And I think they've drafted well enough with what they have. They get screwed every year when it comes to the lottery. This has been a bad team for years that has had absolutely no luck when it comes to the NHL draft lottery. Every time they're in it, they fall back. They never pick where they're supposed to, or they never move up. They've always dropped back, even when they've had the worst record in the NHL. And that's caught them a little bit. There's no question Yzerman deserves some blame and responsibility. And this is him taking that responsibility by saying, well, it hasn't worked out with this coach. We're moving on. And I got a guy. We're going to sign him to a multi-year contract. I'm not doing the interim thing. He didn't do the interim thing. Didn't hand it over to an assistant coach. In fact, they fired Bob Bugner as well. He went out and hired a guy, and the guy wasn't Gerard Gallant. It wasn't Sergei Fedorov. It wasn't Joel Quenneville. Those are popular names that come up every time there's a head coaching opening. Went with Todd McLellan, a proven NHL coach that has not won a Stanley Cup as a head coach and has roughly a .500 record as a coach in the playoffs, but has not won a Stanley Cup as a head coach. Won a Stanley Cup with the Red Wings back in 2008. So this is where they stand right now.